Welcome to Beauty and the Biz. Discover how to grow your practice with effective cosmetic patient attraction, conversion, and retention advice from author, speaker, trainer, and cosmetic practice business and marketing coach, Catherine Maley, MBA.
Hello, and welcome to Beauty and the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of plastic surgery. I'm your host, Catherine Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, as well as consultant to plastic surgeons to get them more patients and profits. Now, today's episode is entitled Easier Way to Scale Practice Revenues, and it's especially for you if you're struggling to grow your practice without dramatically increasing your overhead. So I'm going to talk about what it takes to scale your practice, the challenges coming at you and how to pivot, and then how to thrive and survive no matter what's going on in the world. Because the objective is to set up your cosmetic surgical practice as a business so it's more profitable, more enjoyable to go to every day, and it frees up your valuable time so you have more of it to spend doing what you like to do with the people you most enjoy being with. Because the ultimate goal is to scale your practice by including a system that attracts a steady stream of cash-paying patients without you spending a fortune on advertising, chasing down leads, hiring more staff, discounting your services, or performing on social media. Now, to achieve scalable impact, you need three things. The first one is leverage. You have to use your assets you already have to generate more revenues with less effort and overhead. The second one is bankable profits. Now, this is not just revenues, but it's actual profits you can take out of the practice. And then there's transferable value. That means you have separated you from the practice, so you have the freedom to sell to someone else when it's time to exit or just to take more time off. But there are challenges ahead, and here's a big one. Privacy issues are killing your plans for attracting new patients to your practice. So much is happening behind the scenes with Apple, Google, and Facebook trying to dominate consumer data. So they're no longer sharing data with advertisers like before. This makes it very difficult for you to attract preferred patients when you can no longer target specifically to certain audiences. And that means ad results will become incomplete and inaccurate because you now have only 10% of the data that used to be 100% available to you. So that forces you to increase your advertising budget substantially, as in 30 to 80%. And then you hope the broader, less targeted audience is interested in cosmetic rejuvenation. So it's very similar to old school mass advertising like TV. You spend a fortune to talk to everybody rather than a targeted audience most likely to want your services. So not only do your ad costs increase dramatically, so do poor quality leads. Now, since your leads are not as targeted to your preferred patients, you get this big mixed bag of the public contacting you. So now your staff waste a ton of time triaging these leads to determine who's really serious and who's flaky. So you need well-trained staff and processes to qualify leads. By the way, if you aren't already, I highly recommend you charge a consult fee so at least your time is better protected from wasted consults who have no intention of ever moving forward. But regardless of their motives, these few internet companies affect you big time if you are using paid advertising to attract new cosmetic patients. And there is a cause and effect to everything. This major increase in advertising costs has now made SEO popular again. However, the supply is much greater than the demand, so it's getting nearly impossible to rank on the first page. And on top of that, Google's turning into an answer engine in which they're answering consumer questions without the consumer having to go to your website. So you really need good, fresh content that entices consumers to click and stay on your website. That's no easy feat since it takes time, money, and energy to create that incredible content. Now, another huge challenge you want to plan for is your social media strategy. Now, you're most likely paying somebody to do this for you, or you're spending an incredible amount of your own time posting to add more followers. But please keep in mind, you're only renting those followers. Instagram and Facebook own them, so they are your landlord. They can raise the rent and or kick you out at any time, so you lose your data you've spent years collecting. Now, I'm sure you're aware that social media and plastic surgery don't get along very well. You're showing graphic material that can be offensive or hurt the self-esteem of the public, so these platforms can close down your account without notice. They also decide who sees your organic content. Now, Facebook and Instagram continually strangle your list to force you to pay to play by buying advertising. Now, the latest stats show only 5.2% of your followers actually see your organic content, so you have this false sense of security thinking you're marketing your practice, when in fact, it's drying up right before your eyes. Now, to counter this dilemma, I recommend you own your data. You can no longer trust that audiences you have built on social media platforms will be available to you. The first-party data is the future, and the money is in the patient list data. So your followers become your best targeted list because they already raised their hand indicating they're interested in cosmetic rejuvenation. So you want to use landing pages to capture your followers' name, email, and cell so you can stay in touch no matter what happens. And I'm imploring you to use the data and resources you already have built up over the years being in practice, since it's no longer easy to come by. Now, another big challenge is technical advancements are coming at patients fast and furiously. Just Google non-surgical and look what pops up. What that means to you is plenty of patients still need your surgical expertise. However, way more of them are going to opt for this non-surgical procedure first to delay surgery. So meet them where they are now so you don't lose them to non-surgeons and med spas. The point is to develop that relationship early so they come for non-surgical and then stay for surgical. So given these challenges, how can you scale your practice? Here's three things you can do. Attract more patients from proven sources, have them return more often and spend more on each visit, and then encourage their referrals, reviews, and their shares on social so you don't spend on advertising for new patients. Now, this is going to take a mindset shift. The short-term, one-and-done mentality no longer works. Instead, look at each patient as an unpaid practice revenue generator who brings you new patients for free. Once you embrace this patients for life mindset, you'll treat your patients differently and they will react differently by building your practice for you organically. Now, here's what I'm proposing. Enjoy the surgical side of your practice while also building up your non-surgical as a healthy standalone profit center. And here's why. Patients enter different doors to cosmetic rejuvenation, so you want to meet them where they are. Now, some will go straight to surgery and then stay for more, while others dabble in non-surgery, some for years before they're ready for your surgical options. And the beauty of our industry is that cosmetic consumers have endless needs. The non-surgical industry has grown to over $3 billion and continues to grow thanks to social trends, social media, and advanced technologies that continue to fuel the demand. And let's face it, we females are hard on ourselves. We stare in the mirror, we critique ourselves, and then we have finally had enough and we do something about it, and then what do? We find the next thing that bothers us about us, and we focus on that. It never ends, and that's what keeps all of us in business. Now, I also looked up the most recent Aesthetic Society stats, and non-surgical is now 1/3 of all aesthetic procedures performed, and it keeps growing. And here's another interesting stat. Loyal non-surgical patients spend 67% more than new patients, and that makes sense because if they know, like, and trust you, they're much more open to your recommendations, and they'll gladly buy your packages when offered. And here's the best part. A 5% increase in non-surgical patient retention increases your profits by 25 to up to 95% because recurrent non-surgical patients tend to buy more, return more often, and refer their friends. This increases their lifetime value and decreases your advertising budget, and that makes for a great P&L statement. So it's the retention of your patients that scales your practice using services you already have and pay dearly for. Now, you likely have a database of hundreds of thousands of patients. Can you imagine what would happen to your bottom line if a majority of them returned for more and referred their friends? I know for a fact many of them would gladly return and refer if given the opportunity. Heck, even Google agrees. One day, I was so frustrated with all the changes going on in digital advertising and tripling your cost to get mediocre results. I Googled, how can I get more cosmetic patients? And Google said, get more reviews, enhance your online presence, use social media, respond to reviews, train your staff, and then build strong relationships with existing patients, and referrals will follow. God, I've been singing that song forever, and Google agrees with me. By the way, here's the greatest missed opportunity. It really is the word of mouth referrals. Duct tape marketing says 83% of business owners claim their main source of new business is referrals. But here's the crazy part. 93% of consumers say they would refer their friends and family to you, but only 29% actually do it. So the smart thing to do is to work on that 64% difference. That's where the money is, not your TikTok videos. Word of mouth referrals are not a happy accident. You need to champion patients by asking them, making it easy, and then constantly reminding them how much you would appreciate it. So to pull this all together, here's a structure to follow to grow your practice revenues in this order. Increase referrals and reviews first, then retain more patients, then add more value to differentiate you from your competitors, then do ongoing staff training, then increase your conversion rate, then increase your patient's transaction value, then increase frequency of patient visits, and lastly, increase leads and more web traffic. But most practices do this backwards. They focus only on the bottom rung to increase leads. They skip the leverage parts, so they and their staff work a whole lot harder than necessary for less results. Now, the goal is to create a system to scale your practice by 10xing the value of your non-surgical patients. So if they're typically worth, let's say, $1,000 to you, they're soon worth $10,000 to you because you have a proven system to compel them to return more often, refer more of their friends, give you great reviews, and share you on social media with their followers. So now you've got peace of mind knowing you have a steady stream of patients coming in month after month to give you predictable revenues. Now, this scalable system needs to be a creative solution that eliminates discounting and decreases advertising. And that's what ensures that you operate more profitably so you keep more of the revenues you bring in. And the system needs to be on autopilot so you and your staff can focus on the patient experience. And it also needs to be unique to anything else by changing the conversation. And here's what I mean. Most practices don't realize how insanely difficult it is to get a complete stranger to buy something from them. So they fall back on price, as in discounting their services. Now that message attracts price shoppers, but then you're frustrated that you're being nickel and dimed to death. All of this discounting hurts your profits and your image, and it's a race to the bottom because you can't compete if you're barely covering your overhead. And it's also not a fun way to run a practice. So the solution is to change the conversation from discounting to rewarding your patients with free cosmetic services, since the most effective word in advertising has been and will always be free. So you use it strategically. And this makes it more fun for your patients to work towards winning something, and you keep way more of your profits and revenues. That's how you scale a cosmetic practice you enjoy going to and are proud of. And of course, if that sounds interesting to you, I do happen to have a solution for you, of course. So please check out kissloyalty.com for the details. And that wraps it up for me. I hope that was helpful to you. Of course, if it was, I sure would love a review on iTunes for Beauty in the Biz. And please share this with your staff and your colleagues. And if you've got any questions or feedback, please leave me a message at my website, CatherineMaley.com. Or you can certainly DM me at Catherine Maley MBA, and that's on Instagram. Thanks so much, and we'll talk again soon.
We hope you found valuable insight on this episode of Beauty in the Biz. For more episodes, tools, and Catherine's free book, visit www.catherinemaley.com That's www.catherinemaley.com. And be sure to subscribe to get the latest practice building strategies delivered to you. And don't forget to share this Beauty in the Biz podcast with your staff and colleagues.